everyone. From 1Route, I'm Jeffrey Ross, and you're watching the 1Route Roundup, the show that spotlights individuals making a positive difference in the telecom industry. Today, we're joined by Luke Taylor, currently the founder and director of Lateral Alliances. He's actively helping a multitude of amazing businesses, such as Zentek, Symmetry Solutions, and Revector, just to name a few. He's previously been Group CCO and CEO of EMEA and Americas for Neural Technologies, and a member of the Risk and Assurance Group Steering Committee. In Luke's free time, if you call it that, he also is involved with the CFCA and founded the Risk Rewards Awards, which sheds light on individuals and companies doing amazing things in the risk industry. I have the privilege of telling our audience that Luke was the first person I ever met in the telecom industry, and I'm honored to be able to call him my friend. Luke, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jeffrey. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Now, Luke, I don't know if you knew that, but you are wow. Literally the first.
Well, that's a privilege, and it's quite a compliment to know that I was the first. I hope it didn't put you off the telecoms industry.
Yeah, exactly. I hung in there, you know, and we'll get to the story. I'll tell you the story here in a little bit, but yeah, I'll always remember it, and you're number one. So yeah. That's a good thing.
That's when you were working in the banking industry. Completely different.
You remember very well. There you go. Yeah. Well, Luke, one thing I like to always ask the guests are, where in the world are you today?
Well, currently I am working from home, which is based in Chichester in West Sussex on the south coast of the UK.
That's good. And how's the weather over there today?
It is glorious sunshine today.
So we have glorious sunshine today, but it's going to be about 38 Celsius.
Yes, it's not. We'll probably reach about 20 if we're lucky today.
It's time for me to head back over there.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
Exactly. So Luke, one thing that I always find fascinating is the story of people's journeys and how they got to where they're at today. Can you talk a little bit about what originally got you into the telecom industry?
Interesting. So I joined Neural Technologies many moons ago, which was at the time was predominantly working in the the finance industry, and I joined them in marketing to look at expanding that market. But it was around 98, 99, and at that time the telco kind of bubble kind of exploded. Telecommunications, mobile networks, etc., started to grow, and the company at the time was doing risk assessment for applications. So similar to in the financial industry, credit scoring, if you wish.
Okay.
People for services. So they saw if they could credit score people in the finance market, we could credit score people buying a phone at that time, which were very expensive, and we could assess if they were credit worthy. And so we started to look at that telecommunications space. And since then, really, it's been the road ever since. So we started looking at credit risk. That evolved into looking at analyzing data in real time to look at potential risks and frauds. And then we started building products. And then 20 so years later, I'm here today where I am. But it was exciting times. They were the days where the telcos, they would wear shorts and t-shirts and sit on bean bags, and it was all very trendy and all very hip. And it was very dynamic and things moved quickly. But then those telcos got bigger and bigger. They started putting infrastructure in place and policies and procedures, and they ended up being similar to a financial institution. They had a lot of checks and balances they had to do. They couldn't, expand rapidly as they were originally. But it was great, exciting times.
Sounds like they went from the shorts and t-shirt and bean bags to suit and tie and office.
Yes, exactly. It kind of reversed a bit. They matured, so did we.
Right. No, I don't blame you there. No, that's okay. I am curious, you've had such an amazing background and history within the industry, and then with companies that you work with, obviously today. Which if anybody gets a chance, go to Lateral Alliances website and you can see Luke, I don't know how you have any free time, but you help out help out a variety of businesses.
Yes.
You know,
It's great. It is great fun. Every customer in the telco space is all different. They're all doing different things, resolving different problems. So yeah, it's great. I've got customers that I work with that are looking at data, quality of data across the whole business process to ensure things like business assurance and revenue assurance and customer experience. I've got customers that are looking at the kind of the last mile in kind of things like fraud detection, where they're looking at catching the fraudsters with finding their SIM cards, etc. So there's a whole diverse range of customers, and every day is different. So I always have a different day, a different customer to talk to, and they talk to their end customers. So it's always, fun, which is always the most crucial part of business, is having some fun.
I agree there. So we've been talking about perspective just in general to help our audience understand, maybe what we deal with. Let's say, for example, what we deal with here in the States is not necessarily what the rest of the world might deal with. But in dealing with those multitude of companies and really getting to see things, what's your perspective on fraud in the telecom industry? Is it vary country to country, or are we all kind of dealing with the same thing?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, many of the frauds are very similar in their kind of structure of how they are committed globally, but it changes just slightly based on the dynamics and what's available potentially within technology or process or possible conduits into businesses to commit fraud. So I think in the last few years, since the COVID pandemic, I think there's a lot more focus on the kind of customer experience aspects. So a lot of the telco space are looking at fraud because it's hit their subscribers. Now, it might not potentially have hit them as a telco and they might have lost money, but their subscribers who have used their telephone maybe to take an SMS or take a phone call that has then been a scam, and they've taken money out of their bank accounts, etc. The telcos are realizing that they've got a kind of some sense of responsibility to look at how they can prevent those spam messages, those SMSs, those phone calls, those CLI spoofing calls, etc. So they can reduce the overhead of consumers being defrauded.
Right.
And so when I first started in the telco space and fraud, there was physically fraud being perpetrated against the telco, and the telco was losing kind of hard dollars. And that was through different things like PBX frauds and clip-on frauds, etc. Some very basic ones, but they were stealing phone calls. But now it's changing to that the consumer, people, telcos want to keep their consumers, and they want to keep them happy, and they want to generate revenues. And to do that, they've got to make sure there's a fine balance between kind of monitoring those customers to make sure that they're not taking SMS calls that could potentially be a fraud, etc. I think similar to where 1Route yourselves are, is that there's a lot of things like CLI spoofing. There's a lot of SMS spoofing where customers believe their bank's calling them or texting them, and they go through a process and realize maybe $5,000, $10,000 later that they've been defrauded. And where does that fall? It's a joint responsibility now, that it's the telco, it's the bank, it's the regulators, it's industry groups trying to maybe educate them. But it's changed from maybe years ago where it was telcos looking to say, I'm protecting my infrastructure and my business, now to say, well, actually, there's more subscribers being impacted, maybe third hand, but it still impacts me as a business because I have consumers, or my name is in the press because someone's been spammed or scammed, etc.
So bad press alone can be a detriment.
Yes, and it's especially with press. They don't fully understand how some of these frauds are perpetrated. So the man on the street or the woman on the street will see that someone's been spammed, and they will see the telco brand and think that telco brand is not protecting them, but it's not really the case.
Right.
It's that educational piece. And I think since COVID, and it happened before COVID, but COVID was a great example of where fraudsters suddenly realized they could take the opportunity of where people were working remotely, people were insular, that they could say, well, actually, I'll send 1,000 SMS arrows out, and one of those arrows hits someone, they take that call or take that message, I've got some money. And I think it's that volume of spam or scam, which depends which how you use it, is throw lots and lots of things out, and they will eventually, unfortunately, hit some vulnerable people that will say, "Oh, I've just been messaged by my bank," and they will call them.
And they're getting better at it. If yes, they're getting. Maybe I should say that they're getting more clever at the way they approach their fraudulent attempts, in that it's starting to look more and more as if it came from a bank or from your telco provider. I've had some of those.
And it's in some ways it's an easier fraud than some of the more technical frauds where they were trying to perpetrate that wouldn't generate so much money. Throwing out lots of SMSs or throwing out lots of robocalls is easier in some ways because it's a volume based activity, and people unsadly
the fraudsters are looking at a return on investment as well.
Yes,
exactly. They do a risk assessment and they do a return on investment.
And it's a good business unfortunately a good business for them. So so I think there's been a change in that aspect where I think a lot of telcos are seeing more social responsibility to look at how their subscribers are impacted by frauds that are using the device physically, their handset, to receive an SMS or a voice call, or even a web link, etc. It's just it's fraud. Your mobile phone nowadays is your wallet. It's your your contact base. It's everything really, and so that fraudster wants to get the keys to that that phone to say you can abuse it, which is an unfortunate thing.
Well, I know we touched on this briefly in the very beginning in the introduction, and I have to tell this story, which Luke, I'm glad you do remember. So to the audience, you have to understand at the time that I was able to meet Mr. Taylor here, I was in the banking industry, and at the time I was helping out a friend and now coworker, GBSD Technologies, which is 1Route's sister company, just trying to help them out and network and grow that network. And Luke, I remember I guarantee I sent out over 100 just messages, just a mass, hey, here's who I am. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to meet people. And of all of those messages, and I'm very grateful for it, Luke Taylor actually responded back, which I have no idea why, but
I was obviously feeling very charitable at the time, Jeffrey.
Because at the time I look at it and think, I'm sending these messages out to people all over the world in a completely different industry, saying, hey, this is my name. I work for this bank. I'm trying to help out a client, and I
well, that's probably why, in some ways, probably why I responded was like, oh, this is interesting. This is a different slant on things. I can it'd be interesting to hear this story further. So that's why I made contact.
I always laughed and thought, I'm sure that so many people around the world is like, why is this guy in a different industry in Texas sending me a message? But
exactly.
I'm forever grateful that you did, that you hit respond, and it's been incredible ever since. There is a question in here somewhere. So for our audience that's trying to network and bend the ear of managers of companies or departments and trying to collaborate, or I guess you should say, or have their voice heard, in your experience, what is something that you would recommend doing in order to achieve that goal of expanding a network?
Yeah, interesting. I think you have to, be honest, sincere, and also, you don't try and sell immediately. So people will buy from someone that eventually they trust and respect. And so if you think you're going to sell something by picking up the phone immediately trying to sell to them, they don't know who you are, then it's just never going to happen. And so you've got to it's a kind of a long game in some ways. You've got to build a relationship, you've got to build up a mutual trust with each other, because as well as you trying to sell, you could obviously trust that end customer as well, because especially in certain businesses, you're transacting lots and lots of money in regarding products, etc. You've got to have both a mutual respect and trust. And I think it's that aspect of you don't think this is an immediate thing. You've got to have patience. You've got to have the willingness to play the long game, if you wish, and build a rapport. And whatever industry you're in, it is a global world, but in theory nowadays it's a very global village, and it's very small in regarding certain what industries you're in, and you can network and you can start building relationships. And as long as people can trust and respect you and realize that you're either trying to collaborate or trying to either learn or educate, I think people, start to open up and they have discussions. And then maybe, yes, if you're in that approach of expanding your business and there's a mutual thing that you can both do together, great. And I think it's, it's the same as, if you had your house and you wanted your windows repaired, you would trust, you build up a rapport with a person who's going to try and build your windows. You wouldn't just pull someone off the street and say, can you fix my windows? You've got to have that thing of how many windows have you done before? Have you,
sure,
how long you've been in the industry? Have you got some references, et cetera, et cetera? So it's that aspect of building up a kind of a mutual respect, I think.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I love how you touch on sincerity, which, in today's time, it's hard to get the sincerity across the keyboard.
Yes.
And I 100% agree. If you're truly, like in our case, it's like, hey, Luke, I really just want to meet somebody and try to learn more.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to sell you anything yet, but
yes, exactly. And it's that aspect of, it's that honesty and openness. And, it's a very small world. And if people can network and collaborate and build relationships, at some time you may need someone for certain roles. Definitely. And it's the same in your own social life. You will use people to fix your kitchen or fix your windows or paint your house that either your friends have used or your associates have used because they rely on them and they trust them, and you think, well, actually, I can probably trust them and rely on them. So it's building that kind of infrastructure of being trusted and respected or well regarded and being honest, etc. That will, I think, help you in the long run. And I think it's very easy in the world today that you can especially in certain consumer-based industries where you can put a bad rating up and your business is gone forever. So you've got to be honest and trustworthy, and don't promise the world if you can't deliver the world. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Luke, I know you're extremely busy. You're helping out so many people, which is always fun to keep up with you.
Yes.
on whether it's social media or just quick phone calls or messages. And we really appreciate the work that you're doing and helping people out. I mean, I know most recently you opened up your home to those in need, and I think that's just
yes, that's great. I mean, it's great to have that experience. So yes, Marie joined us probably 3 weeks ago. She's living with us. We've supported her, and we've managed to find her a job locally. So she's starting a job.
That's exciting.
Shortly. So she's got a kind of a little career path to move forward in. So that's great. So yes, that kind of thing, which is great. So giving something back occasionally is always nice.
It's always good. So, well, we appreciate you. And I would tell you this. I think you would. Maybe you'll agree. Maybe not. As we discussed, when you're starting to meet some people and you're going to conferences or phone calls or meetings, you really don't get to know somebody in the 10 minutes that you talk with them, right?
No.
So the great people over at the Late Show with Stephen Colbert came up with a questionnaire that by the end of the 15 questions, you will be known to the world. Now, the data scientists in the 1Route labs have tweaked that questionnaire just a little bit. And Luke Taylor, we would like you to answer this questionnaire. Are
Right.
you ready?
Yes, I'll be prepared.
All right. Luke Taylor, what is the best sandwich?
The best sandwich, ooh, for me, probably a BLT, to be honest.
Yeah.
It covers everything for me. It's got a bit of greenery to make sure it's a bit healthy. It's got a bit of meat in it just to keep me going. So yes, I'll probably just stick with a BLT. And you can get a BLT anywhere around the world. So
Classic.
always always
a
good bet.
Have you tried it with adding avocado to it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've done that. Yeah.
I think it turns into something else though. It's no longer.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think it's a BLAT, a blot.
It's a blat. Yeah.
What is one thing that you own that you should really throw out?
Oh, that's a good point. Let's have a look. Probably a pair of sneakers in your case, a pair of trainers. I've got a pair of trainers that I use for running, and they're comfortable. They don't give me blisters, but the soles started to come off, and I've glued them on a bit, and I think now I'll keep going, but they are starting to fall apart. So I should throw them away, but I just can't at the minute.
You know, when they get to the point they're molded to your foot, it's hard to throw those.
It's
like a couple of little friends.
Yes, it is, exactly.
What is the scariest animal?
Scariest animal that I've encountered?
Just
the scariest animal.
Yep, scariest
animal. For me, probably a spider, to be honest. Not really keen on spiders. I can cope with most other animals. Spiders, yeah, not my favorite, unfortunately.
I don't mind stepping on them.
No.
Okay, apples or oranges?
Oh, good one. I wouldn't actually have either, though. I'll go for pears.
Well, apples is the correct answer, but
yes, I'll go apples.
You know why? You can put peanut butter on an apple.
Oh, I never tried that.
Well, don't try it with an orange.
That would be challenging.
You know, I don't think I've ever tried it with a pear, but in my mind, it just doesn't sound like
I don't think that goes deep. But an apple, I can understand an apple would work. Yes.
Have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
Have I ever asked someone for my autograph? Oh my God, let's just think. I don't think I have, actually. I can't think of anyone. No, I don't think I have. We're English, see, we're very reserved. If we had someone famous going past, we'd just kind of not even look at them. We'd just be kind of,
not even a wave.
No, it would just be like maybe a little like recognition, but that's it. See, that's what we don't do.
You know, at least what is the nod?
Yeah,
give them the nod.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
Yeah, if Tom Cruise walked past, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's it." I wouldn't ask for an autograph. It'd be like.
Well, speaking of that, what is your favorite action movie?
Favorite action movie? Oh, crikey. What would be my favorite one? I'd go for the Die Hard series, I'd say, as of all times. That's kind of my best kind of action group.
I like
first and now we're not going to see him on the big screen much more. So I think
it's a shame. It really is. First Die Hard is obviously a classic. And, you know, first couple are really good. I like them. I like them. So, Luke, what is your favorite smell?
My favorite smell? That's interesting. I would go for the smell of mangoes.
Oh, you know, yeah.
I love mango juice. So if I smell mango, that would just say,
it brings it all back, memories and all. That's fantastic. Yeah. So on that note, what is your least favorite smell?
Ooh, my pet dog's farts.
I love it.
From such a small animal,
we were just
they can be so vicious.
We were just talking about sincerity and honesty, so I appreciate that. What was your first cell phone that you owned?
I was thinking about that. I think it was one of those Motorola flip ones, little tacks. The little tactile with a little aerial coming
Yeah.
out. I think it's a small one, like the clamshell ones. I think it's one of those.
There's times I miss physical keys.
Yeah.
Maybe
I mean, all it did was basically make phone calls and do some text messaging, and that was it.
Novel concept to use a phone.
Yeah.
For
the battery would last like 3 or 4 days. It was fine.
I like how they, the cell phones, mobile phones started huge, then they came down to nothing.
Yes.
And now they're back to the size of a laptop.
Yes.
And if the screen breaks, you just have a phone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Do you prefer flat or sparkling?
Flat.
Awesome. Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee, I'd say. Mostly coffee.
You take it just straight black?
I work most based on my job, really. I do work out of cafes quite a lot. So it's usually cappuccinos in the morning and then an black Americano in the afternoon.
You're my kind of guy. What is the most used app on your phone?
I would say probably WhatsApp. So a lot of my customers have moved kind of into instant messaging. So there's lots of conversations I have on WhatsApp.
That's okay. It's a communication. You're using a phone to communicate.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Luke, you get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Oh my goodness. What song? Might go mad if I had to listen to one song all the time.
I guess there is the option of silence.
I'll do Bohemian Rhapsody because it's got so much going on in it. At least I can juggle with it all
That's
over
a
the
good
place.
point. Queen has a lot going on for him there.
Yeah, I won't go mad with the repetitive. I think isn't that kind of a torture implement, using one song to play it over and over again? I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. What number am I thinking of?
7.
No.
What were you thinking of?
It is divisible by 7, so you're close. And finally, describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Fun, exciting, friendly, relaxed, and travel, I'd say.
I love it.
I mix them all together and I'll be fine.
Well, Luke Taylor, you are now known to whoever's watching this. You're a known man. All that's left to do is roll out the red carpet. You look into the camera and tell us what is on the horizon for Luke Taylor.
So what's on the horizon for me? Carrying on what I do at the moment. I'm having great fun working with all the different clients and organizations. So one of the great things is involved in those is obviously meeting new people, collaborating with new customers and industries. So yeah, I think it's going to be meeting more people. And I think now COVID has kind of hopefully disappeared. We can actually start meeting face to face a lot more and traveling to conferences, traveling to customer sites and actually chatting over coffees.
I love it. I love it. And to our audience, thank you for watching today. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, do all the social media, whatever, tweet, send it out. And we look forward to the next go round. Luke Taylor, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. No, thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.